Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajakacharya Sotarasata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Arigor Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shai Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I'm very honored to be here today and very grateful that the organizers have invited me to come so that I can be enriched by this experience, seeing so many wonderful devotees. They requested me to speak on the importance of book distribution today. Prabhupada, he recommended that we should adopt the mentality of Sri Prahlad Maharaj in our book distribution. And of all of Prahlad Maharaj's prayers in Canto 7, Chapter 9, text number 44 is most essential for our preaching mentality. Prayena deva munaya svavimukti kama monam charanti vijanena parata nishtha Naitan vihaya kripanan vimumuksha eko Nanyam tvad asya sharanam brahmato nupashye. Prayena. Generally, in almost all cases. Deva. O my Lord. Munaya, the great saintly persons. Sva, personal, own. Vimukti kama, ambitious for liberation from this material world. Monam, silently. Charanti, they wander in places like the Himalayan forests, where they have no touch with the activities of the materialists. Vijane, in solitary places. Na, not. Para artha nishtha, interested in working for others by giving them the benefit of the Krishna consciousness movement. By enlightening them with Krishna consciousness. Na, not. Etan, these. Vihaya, leaving aside. Kripanan, fools and rascals, engaged in materialistic activity, who do not know the benefit of the human form of life. Mimukshe, I desire to be liberated and to return home back to Godhead. Ekaha, alone. Na, not. Anyam, other. Tvat, but for you. Asya, of this. Sharanam, shelter. Brahmataha, of the living entity, rotating and wandering throughout the material universes. Anupashye, do I see. Translation. My dear Lord Nrsingadev, I see that there are many saintly persons Indeed, but they are not interested they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, Monavrat. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rascals. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to the shelter at your lotus feet. Purport. This is the decision of the Vaishnava, the pure devotee of the Lord. For himself, he has no problems, even if he has to stay in this material world, because his only business is to remain in Krishna consciousness. The Krishna conscious person can go even to hell and still be happy. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said, Naivod Vijay Para Duratyaya Vaitaranyaha. O best of the great personalities, I am not at all afraid of material existence. The pure devotee is never unhappy in any condition of life. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Narayana parasarve na kutaschana bibyati. Svarga apavarga narakeshva pi tulyarta darshinaha. Devotees solely engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. For a devotee, being situated in the heavenly planets and being in the hellish planets are equal. For a devotee lives neither in heaven nor in hell, but with Krishna in the spiritual world. The secret of success for the devotee is not understood by the karmis and gyanis. Karmis therefore try to be happy by material adjustment, and gyanis want to be happy by becoming one with the Supreme. The devotee has no such interest. He is not interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest. Rather, his interest is in the busiest part of the world, where he teaches people Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness movement was started for this purpose. We do not teach one to meditate in a secluded place just so that one may show that he has become very much advanced and may be proud of his so-called transcendental meditation, although he engages in all sorts of foolish materialistic activity. A Vaishnava like Prahlad Maharaj is not interested in such a bluff of spiritual advancement. Rather, he is interested in enlightening people in Krishna consciousness, because that is the only way for them to become happy. Prahlad Maharaj says clearly, Nanyam tvad asya sharanam brahmato nupashye. I know that without Krishna consciousness, without taking shelter of your lotus feet, one cannot be happy. One wanders within the universe life after life, but by the grace of a devotee, a servant of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can get the clue to Krishna consciousness, and then not only become happy in this world, but also return home back to Godhead. That is the real target of life, in life. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement are not at all interested in so-called meditation in the Himalayas or the forest, where one will only make a show of meditation, nor are they interested in opening many schools for yoga and meditation in the cities, Rather, every member of the Krishna consciousness movement is interested in going door to door to try to convince people about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as it is, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. That is the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement must be fully convinced that without Krishna, one cannot be happy. Thus, the Krishna conscious person avoids all kinds of pseudo-spiritualists, transcendentalists, meditators, monists, philosophers, and philanthropists. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshusunimilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavari Paschatya Deshatarine. So trying to understand the transcendental mood of little Prahlad Maharaj, 5-year-old boy, whose father had just threatened to chop off his head unless the Lord came personally to protect him. So what did the Lord do? He came and he killed the father. And Prahlad Maharaj, getting the benediction of Lord Nrsingadev's hand on his head, was then able to express beautiful prayers describing the glories of the Lord, and particularly the compassion of the devotee of the Lord. Each one of us sitting here, we have to remember and give thanks to whoever that devotee or devotees were who helped us come to Krishna consciousness, who picked us up out of misery and darkness and brought us to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet, to the lotus feet of our Guru Maharajas, and put in our hand one of Srila Prabhupada's books. Now, Srila Prabhupada, he had a transcendental plot. He followed his own plot. He was very aggressive. His spiritual master gave him an instruction to preach Krishna consciousness in English in the Western countries, and that would benefit the entire world. So he began with the Back to Godhead magazine in the middle of World War II, when it was practically impossible to get paper, and he did everything he could to begin preaching in English. Even at the time of his sannyas initiation, when he was asked to speak in front of an audience, only Hindi and Bengali speaking, he chose to speak in English. And then Prabhupada knew that he needed weapons. If he were going to go to the West, he needed books. Prabhupada made 4 mundane examples to our book distribution preaching. One is, he compared our preaching to war on Maya. He said that these books are like bombs, because Prabhupada, he lived in Calcutta during the Second World War, and the Japanese, they were coming and bombing Calcutta, and everyone fled from Calcutta, but his wife wouldn't leave, so he had to stay there. And the bombs were just raining down in Calcutta. So he used that as an example of how we have to rain down the books in this war on Maya, because these books will be the saving grace of all of humanity. He also used the example of the communists. Again, Prabhupada in Calcutta, in in Bengal, West Bengal, the communists were very active. But the Russians never came to India. They sent their books here. They sent their books in 9 different languages in India, and that way they were able to get a very strong following in West Bengal and Kerala, Tamil Nadu. You never saw a communist Russian coming here to preach. They only sent their books. He also gave the example of the Christians. Now, the Christians, we know about the missionaries here in India. the Christians only have one book. And they spread that one book in languages all over the world, and they're able to convert so many people to Christianity with just one book. Prabhupada said, we have 40 books. Can you imagine the effect of our 40 books compared to their one book? So Prabhupada specifically emphasized that his books should be printed in every single language. We now have Prabhupada's books printed in 87 languages of the world. We're just preparing now to present to Prime Minister Modi, we're waiting for him to get his third term, a set of 50 Bhagavad Gitas, 50 different languages, so that whenever he meets the diplomats, he can give them in Azerbaijani, in Kazakh, in Norwegian, in Finnish, in Greek, any language in the world. He can now present Bhagavad Gita to the leaders of the world. This is the influence that Srila Prabhupada's books is now having in the whole world. He also presented one last mundane example, and that is, we're all very familiar with this, the Indian railways. He said that in the brochure for all of the employees, it's described that each employee has to see that the wheels are always turning on the vehicles, the carriages. That's the job of every single employee of Indian Railways, that the wheels are always turning. And Prabhupada said similarly, our wheels turning means that the books are constantly being distributed. So there are different levels that we can understand the benefits and the enlightenment that occurs when we distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. First of all, there was a devotee named Rameshwar, and he was in charge of the BBT when Srila Prabhupada was present with us. And one time he was trying to encourage the biggest book distributors. They were in Los Angeles, which was the world headquarters at that time, before Mayapur became the world headquarters. And in order to encourage them, he said that actually this book distribution is Lord Chaitanya's Leela. Because Lord Chaitanya, he predicted. Who knows that verse? Prithivityache jata nagaradigram sarvatra prachar haibi moranam. That was from Chaitanya Bhagavat. So he was trying to convince the devotees that every time you distribute a book, actually you are engaging in Lord Chaitanya's personal leela of fulfilling his desire that his name be heard in every town and village of the world. Then he went on further to say that just like the gopis in Krishna Leela, the gopis are not interested in meeting Krishna themselves. There's a popular phrase in Vrindavan, Radhe, 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 Krishna Milade. Everyone wants to meet Shamilade, Radhe, Radhe, Shamilade. Everyone's interested in meeting Sham, and they're praying to Radharani that you let me meet your Sham. But actually the gopis, they weren't interested in meeting Krishna. They wanted to bring other gopis to meet Krishna. And Radharani, she would have different techniques how she could trick the gopis to enjoy with Krishna for both of their pleasures, Krishna's pleasure and the gopis' pleasure. So he was saying that when we distribute books, we're actually like the gopis, because we're trying to bring someone to Krishna. So they'll be happy, and so Krishna will be happy. So one of the book distributors, they thought that this was Sahajiya mentality. And they wrote to Prabhupada, is this true? That this is Chaitanya Leela? And we're just like the gopis? And what did Prabhupada write back? Yes, this is true. So actually, when we're distributing Prabhupada's books, it's on a much higher level that we might understand. Our temple leaders, whoever our commanders are, they may say, all right, now you go out and distribute books today. And we may not feel like distributing books. We might feel embarrassed to approach people. And Prabhupada, he says to that, you just see how aggressive I was. No one invited me to come to America. No one invited me to distribute my books in America. No one invited me to teach them about Krishna. I was very aggressive, particularly with my book distribution. When Prabhupada went to America, the only thing he had with him was 200 sets of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He had no money. He had one bag of chira, poa, and that was it. 1 or 2 dhotis, a typewriter that he was able to get. His books. So his transcendental plot was, if I distribute my books, then everything will be successful. And it was by his book distribution, he was able to make $1, $5, $16 for a set, $20 for a set. And gradually, his movement, his society increased just by this book distribution. So Prabhupada would again and again write in his letters. I collected here 8 pages. Again and again and again, Prabhupada, he writes the same things in his books and in his letters. Distribution of our books and literatures is our main propaganda program. 1 Krishna book sold means we go forward 1 step in our Krishna consciousness. We should always remember this. In my heart, I want the Krishna book in small or large form should be distributed in every home who are English-speaking people. So this is when we only had the books in English. Now we have books in all the languages. Prabhupada wanted the books in all the languages to be translated. More than anything, I want that my students should distribute my books and literatures profusely all over the world. And this should be our foremost concern. These literatures are the solid ground upon which our preaching stands. So I want that they should be available to everyone, as many as possible. And then Prabhupada, he explains, because sometimes the leaders, in order to please Prabhupada, they would say, all right, go out and distribute 100 books today. Don't come back until you've distributed 100. Well, I never did that. Some devotees might have done that. So it was asked to Prabhupada, what about numbers? And Prabhupada, he explained that the numbers don't matter to Krishna. The sincerity matters. So we can look at this in 3 different levels. We can see the personal gain that we get, the personal advancement and enlightenment we get by book distribution. Prabhupada says 1 step closer to Krishna every time we distribute a Krishna book. Also, Prabhupada explained that when the devotees are on book distribution, they're actually in trance. They're in samadhi. And anyone who has gone on book distribution as a full-time service, you can attest that Krishna sends you people and you're in samadhi, you're in ecstasy. Prabhupada says that this is real intoxication when you're distributing his books and giving Krishna to other people. So on a personal level, we make advancement. Then on the next step, pleasing Guru and Parampara. Again and again, Prabhupada says, I can read to you so many quotations. If you want to please me, distribute my books. Print books, distribute profusely. That will be the best preaching work. What will your 3 minutes preaching work do? So Prabhupada said this, he wrote this same letter to 3 of his GBCs. And the GBC in New York, GBC in Europe, GBC in UK. that what will be the benefit of your 3 minutes of preaching? Well, we know that we have to explain things, convince people by our speaking, because by Shravanam Kirtanam we can understand the philosophy. But Srila Prabhupada's point that he wanted to make was that if you simply put the book in someone's hand, he says that just by touching the book, they become purified, even if they don't read it. That's how purifying Prabhupada's books are. And eventually, if they have the book in their hand, they will read it. Or we've had so many examples of devotees who their family members got a book. Right here we have an example. His uncle got a book in Agartala. He didn't get the book. His uncle left the book there. He read it. And he's here now as a disciple of Bhakti Charu Swami. So many devotees were made by books that they found, by books that they just by chance got. So every time we distribute a book, even if the person only touches it, they make spiritual advancement. So not only that, but because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati gave the order to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada passed that order on to us. We can understand that when we distribute books, we are pleasing Srila Prabhupada, we are pleasing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and especially on this day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's appearance, it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur who sent the first books out of India. I went to McGill University to find that first book about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life and precepts, and it was there in the library. He made an effort to spread the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu outside of India, and he instilled that effort in the heart of his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who gave that same effort to Srila Prabhupada. And that same effort is in each one of our hearts, because Prabhupada, his success was by his book distribution. All of us are here through book distribution. So I'm going to leave all of these quotations now at this time when Bhadra Purnima is coming up just in 2 days. We'll also hear more about the glories of distributing Srimad Bhagavatam in particular, all the benefits of one who receives Srimad Bhagavatam, one who distributes Srimad Bhagavatam. But in the meantime, after that, coming up is the marathon, Bhagavad Gita marathon. But for book distributors are on a marathon 365 days out of the year. These special days, they're considered to be like discount sales. If somebody wants to go back to Godhead, bam, you just give a Srimad Bhagavatam set on this day, and you'll go back to Godhead. But the full-time book distributors, just like when the gopis try to bring everyone to Krishna, we try to convince others, yes, distribute Prabhupada's books. You'll get great benefit, and whoever you give the book to will also get great benefit. So this is the message. Krishna is pleased when he says in the end of Bhagavad Gita, that one who gives this transcendental message to my devotees, he is the most dear to me. So on all levels, personal level, pleasing our Guru, and pleasing Krishna, book distribution is the topmost of all services. And one may ask, between Bhagavat Vidhi and Pancharatriki Vidhi, both should be done together. They're like two tracks on a train. And Prabhupada explains that of the two, yes, they're both very important. Of the two, Bhagavat Vidhi, Bhagavat Marg, is more important. The Pancharatriki Vidhi, or our sadhana, our attending classes, our chanting of our japa, this is so that we become purified enough so that we can give this message of Krishna consciousness to others in the form of book distribution. So I encourage you all, become full-time book distributors, make your life perfect, go back to Godhead in this very lifetime by distributing Prabhupada's books, and help others become fortunate, just as Prahlad Maharaj. He wasn't interested in his own spiritual advancement. He was interested in helping the foolish and the ignorant come to the lotus feet of Lord Nrsingadev. So every day you're so fortunate you have Lord Nrsingadev here to worship. You pray to him for intelligence and for strength to go out there, drop these bombs of Prabhupada's books, and try to make the world fully Krishna conscious by reading Prabhupada's books. Okay, thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Yes, Prabhu?
My question is that with your own life experience, would you like to share with us how book distribution purify our heart, and what should we pray when we show a book to others?
At one point, Prabhupada sent us out. This was before we had any temples in India. He sent us out to distribute books all over India. And we were all alone, my husband and myself. And I was feeling very lonely. No prasadam, no devotees, no temples. We only had Prabhupada's books with us, and we carried them on our head wherever we went. And because Prabhupada sent us out, we would come back and report to Prabhupada. We would show him our receipts of which schools and colleges took which books. And while coming back to see Prabhupada in Bombay one time, I was doing Prabhupada's service in his room. So I said to my husband, you please ask Prabhupada, I'm missing devotees and deities and prasadam so much. Ask him if we can have some traveling deities when we go out. So on the morning walk, he asked Prabhupada, can we have some traveling deities to worship as we're traveling? Prabhupada said, my books are your deities. They are Shabda Rama. They are transcendental sound vibration. You worship my books. So that was very hard for me to understand. In a book form, how do you do you dress them? You can't bathe them. But because Prabhupada gave that direct order to us, I had to understand, what does it mean that these books are a deity? And I began to realize, as we read Prabhupada's books, every single word, every single syllable, the word-for-word translations, is just like a particle of Krishna's body. And Krishna speaks to us through these books and through the words of his devotees. And eventually, you worship these books just as they are Krishna. Because we know that the Srimad Bhagavatam particularly, that's a spotless Purana. And through the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can understand Krishna, his devotees, devotional service, everything. So that statement by Srila Prabhupada gave me the strength to make his books my deities and to worship his books my whole life. Okay. Does that help? Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, there is one statement, by hook or by crook.
Yes.
In my books. So
Yes.
what's the purport of this statement?
By hook or by crook. Hmm. Well, Prabhupada, he gave an amendment to that. That we should never degrade ourselves in our principles. So sometimes the devotees, they were using different techniques for book distribution. For instance, the Bangladesh war, that take this, your donation will go to feed the refugees in India, by hook or by crook. Prabhupada didn't approve of that. We have to maintain our principles in all circumstances. When the devotees in the West, because seeing a devotee would be quite an experience. In the West, in the prisons, they wear orange. So we looked like escaped convicts. With the shaved head. In the insane asylums, they make everyone shave their head in the West. So it was very hard for the Westerners to understand the devotees at first. Although they were attracted, we were attracted, we became devotees. But some of the devotees, they decided that they would dress like normal people, put on wigs, things like that. So when it was presented to Prabhupada, in fact, some of them even came to Prabhupada in their garb, and Prabhupada was quite amused because they would use these type of techniques just so that the people would accept them. I have one example that Indradumna Swami, when he first went to Russia, when Russia was still under the Iron Curtain, he went there as a liquor salesman. And, and he had in his luggage bottles of liquor. Because that's what everybody was interested in there. So immediately they let him in, and once he got in there, he took over. So that's a good example of by hook or by crook. So the devotees use their intelligence how to enter in. You enter like a pin and become a plow, right? So that's the type of hook or crook. Never to lie. We should never lie. And we should always be legal. Those are the two rules that Prabhupada gave us. We should never lie and we should always be legal. But we can use some type of methods if it'll help us in our book distribution. Okay, thank you. One young boy had a question here. It's our future generation of book distributors.
He wants to speak in Hindi.
हाँ, हिंदी में बात करो, ठीक है.
Back to order of lifestyle. तो जिंदगी के लिए खाली हम भगवान के पास जाते हैं. भगवान ने कहा है कि हम एक बार जो पुण्य दान करते हैं वो वापस नहीं आता है. तो फिर एक बार के लिए हम भगवान के पास जाते हैं.
I couldn't understand.
He's saying, Mataji, you said back to order for one life.
Yes.
So he's saying, he's understanding it that we go for only one life, and then we come back. So he's asking only one life for we stay eternally.
अच्छा. आप इस जीवन में कृष्ण के पास जा सकते, लेकिन कृष्ण क्या करते? वो भी इधर आते प्रचार करने के लिए, हाँ? तो जब कृष्ण आते, हम भी इनके साथ जाना चाहते. समझ आते? वो कृष्ण गोलोक वृंदावन में है और वो देख रहे कि कितना दुख है इस जगत में, तो इनका प्रेम और इनका दया से वो इधर भी आते, इसलिए चैतन्य महाप्रभु भी इधर आए। ठीक है। Any more questions? I think it's time for Shruti Kirti. Yes, I don't want to. I want to hear him. One more question? Okay.
Krishna, Mataji और Prabhupada disciples, आपने अकेले में भी बहुत strong process में संतुलन maintain करके अकेले में भी preaching किया और बहुत क्या, बाकी जब हम यहाँ पे programs में आते हैं तो Prabhupada disciples के association में बहुत energy feel करते हैं और सोचते हैं,
इसलिए मैं भी आया इधर।
बट माताजी जब हम devotees association से दूर जाते हैं, हमारा प्रसाद होता है, मतलब भोजन भी ऐसे ही होता है, just like food। तो माताजी हम हमारी consciousness कैसे maintain करें और कैसे strong determined रहे अपनी साधना को लेकर और सेवा को लेकर, like food distribution, preaching and etc.
It's blurry. Tell me what he
He's
said.
saying that when we are here, we can develop high consciousness. But when we go outside, food is not developed, not yet. How should we develop our consciousness and maintain the high spirit?
बाहर मत जाओ, इधर रहो। Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay. Oh.
Hare Krishna.